Horgrash the Barbarian charges into the cavern, swings his mighty great axe, and deals 9 points of damage to every single one of these monsters? How is that possible? Hi everyone, I'm Nick Olivo, and if you've ever been in the situation we just saw, you know how frustrating it is to have to scramble to fix that mid-game. So today, I'll show you how to build a macro that will put all the affected tokens back to their max HP, and then fix it so that reducing one token's HP doesn't impact any other token. And this will all happen with the click of a single button. Now, we will be using mods for this, so a pro account is required to do what I'm about to show you. Before we dive in, I'd just like to thank Roll20 for sponsoring this video. So let's begin by discussing why this happens in the first place. Each of these tokens that represent the piercer are connected to the same character sheet. So all of the 4 piercer tokens on the board right now read from this specific character sheet to get their information. So it's pulling the AC attribute, which is a 15. It's pulling the current HP from the character sheet as well. And if we look right here, we can see that the character sheet says that the piercer currently has 14 out of 22 hit points. As we adjust the values on the token, those values are written back to the character sheet. And so if I subtract 3 here, it updates automatically, and we can see now that we're down to 11. But because all of those tokens are reading from this same sheet, every single one of them now says that they have 11 HP. And if I were to set this to be, say, 15, then you see that that automatically is reflected as well. So because all of these piercer tokens are tied to the same sheet, then making a change to one of the tokens' HP winds up changing the value for all of the tokens. And that's not what we want. So the way we're going to fix that is we open up the tokens settings, and bar 1 right now is connected to the HP value. We're going to remove that. We're going to set that back to none, and then save the changes. And now if we modify this token's HP, so if we take away another 3, we see that it only updated that one token. It didn't update the other ones. And that's great, but the problem is we would then need to go through and make that change for every single token. So in this case, we've only got 4, but if we had, say, a dozen of these tokens on the board, then we would have to do that a dozen times. And that's tedious, and it's frustrating, and it's not a great space to be in if you're discovering this in the middle of a game as a DM. So what we're going to do now is build a macro that automates this process so that we won't need to worry about going into each individual token to unlink the HP value. So the first thing we need to do is go into our game settings page here, and we need to install a mod called ScriptCards. ScriptCards comes to us from the amazing Kurt Jagers, and ScriptCards is what's going to allow us to perform all the actions that we need. Now, if you've never installed a mod before, all you need to do is go to this mod library, you go into the drop-down here, type ScriptCards, add it to your game, and you're good to go. Once you've got ScriptCards installed, we're ready to start writing some code. So let's jump back into our game here. All right, so let's see what it's going to look like when all is said and done. You're going to click on one of your monster's tokens. You're going to plug in some code. The code's going to run. You're going to get a message in chat whispered to you saying that we are unlinking NPC HP, and we're going to see a list of all the monsters that were updated. And you'll notice some of them repeat. That's because there are multiples of these on the map. But when we look at them, we're going to see that nobody is linked to their HP property anymore. So let's see how we go about building that. All right, so I'm going to swing over my trusty Notepad++ window here. And you can see I've already started writing the code. We begin with exclamation point script, 2 open curly braces, and 2 closing curly braces. This is telling Roll20 that we are running a script card, and everything between these 2 sets of curly braces is part of that script card. All right, now let's build out the card. And I'm going to start here by putting in this line. This is setting the title of the script card, as you see over here on the right, Unlinking NPC HP. Cool. And we also want that whispered to us, so we're also going to include this line, which just says we are going to whisper the output of the card to anyone who is the GM. So my players will not see this message. All right, great. Let's move this off to the side for a moment. And what I'm going to do is just put my piercers so that they have their HP property linked for a couple of tokens again, just so that we have that for illustrative purposes here. Okay, so I've updated this one, and I'll update this one as well. And again, I just want this so that we can see the changes as they're happening. So both of these are linked, and that means that if I adjust this token's HP, this token's HP will adjust as well. So let's just do that real quick. Okay, and we see that that's happening. So the first thing that we want to do is restore these tokens back to their maximum value, right? We discovered this when our Barbarian Horgrash came over and made an attack on this piercer. We found that it updated all the piercers' HP, so we want to get all of the piercers back up to their max HP, unlink them, and then we can reapply Horgrash's damage. So in order to restore the piercers back to their maximum HP, we're going to do that with 2 lines. So I'm going to put those 2 lines in, and then we'll break down how they work. So the first of the 2 lines is this one right here. And what this is doing is getting the ID of the selected token. That's how we're going to be able to work with it later on. So we grab the selected token's ID right here, and we store that in a variable called, creatively enough, tokenID. And then this line right here, what this is saying is we are going to modify an attribute on a particular token's character sheet. So exclamation point A means we're modifying an attribute. The character sheet that we're modifying is this guy right here. And the token ID represents the token itself, but the T represents property means we're actually going into the token setting and we're saying, okay, which character does this token represent? And then we get that character ID from this menu. So this is saying, okay, I'm going to grab the character that this token represents, and then I'm going to set its HP to the maximum value in bar 1, which is going to be 22. So we're going to set bar 1 back to 22 for any piercer that is currently connected to the HP property of the character sheet. Okay, so that's the first step in the process. We're going to restore the HP back for all of the piercers. So if we were to run this right now, we could just copy this code right here, pop it into our chat, run it, and there we go. We see that those 2 piercers are now back to maximum. Awesome. Okay, so now that we've got the HP back, what we want to do now is get a list of all the NPC tokens on the battlefield and unlink bar 1 from that HP property. Because if we look at some of the other monsters here, like this Roper, we can see it's linked to the HP. If we scroll down a little bit, there are some phase spiders on the GM layer. Those are also linked. So there's a bunch of monsters here. Basically what we want to say is we're going to take care of all the monsters that are on this page, and then we'll be all set. We won't run into this problem again. So in order to do that, we're going to put in several lines of code here. And the first 2 lines are going to be to select all of the NPCs on the battlefield. And that's going to look like this. So essentially what's happening here is we are creating a filter for our tokens. And we're going to say we only want tokens who have an attribute on their character sheet called character sheet type NPC. So if we open up the piercer here and we go over to the attributes and abilities section, there's a spot right here called character sheet type, and it is set to NPC. If this were a PC, it will be set to PC, and so on. So we only want character sheets that are for NPCs. So that's our filter. And then this line right here says that we are building an array. And you can think of an array as a list. So we're just going to have a list of tokens. And this list of tokens is going to be created from a specific page. That's what page tokens means. So we're going to get a list of tokens on a specific page, and we're going to store them in a list called tokenArr. So now the next question is, well, what page are we getting the tokens from? And that's where this tokenID comes in. We're going to say we want the list of tokens from the same page that this token lives on. Remember, this is the selected token ID. So whatever token we have highlighted, whatever page that token lives on, is the page that we are going to generate a list of tokens from. And then we're applying our filter so that we're not going to grab Horgrash's token in this because his character sheet type is not NPC. So we're only going to grab things that are NPCs and put them in this array. And that's going to give us a list of every NPC on the board. And the information that actually gets stored in that array is each token's ID. So we'll get a token ID for this specific piercer, a token ID for this specific piercer, for these other two, for the roper, for the phase spiders, and so on. So the list will be of all the token IDs of all the NPCs on the board. And that's important to note because the next thing we're going to do is actually come in here and we're going to loop over every token ID in that array and unlink the HP property from bar 1. So what this is doing right here, this is a loop. These -- marks say that we're starting a loop and then ending one down here. And what we're saying here is for each token in the token array, we're going to unlink bar 1. So this TID, this is the individual entry in the array. So this is token ID number 1, token ID number 2, number 3, and so on. So we're going to say modify the token. That's what !T means. And we're going to set bar 1 link to nothing. So there's no space or anything here. This is just a colon that's saying we're no longer linking bar 1 to anything. Then this next line, !C, is just like what we saw up here where we're getting the represents. What we're doing here is we are changing the default token for that particular character sheet to be this token ID. And what that means is if we drag out, say, another piercer onto the battlefield, it will not have its HP value linked to bar 1. And then the last thing here is this message right here. The --+ means that we are writing data out. So we're just going to write out the name of the token that we updated. So let's go ahead, let's copy all this code, and let's create a macro here. I'm going to add this, and I'm going to call this the unlink command. And we'll scoot this guy out of the way. We'll paste that in, save it, and then let's throw that into the bar. Okay, now I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to reduce my HP down to 11 again, just so that we've got that for illustrative purposes. Okay, so you see that we've reduced these two piercers. These ones were not actually linked anymore, so that's why they didn't update. But now I'm going to highlight this piercer. I'm going to run the unlink command. There we go. We see that we've restored the HP back to its max value for those two tokens. We've got a list of all the NPCs that we've unlinked. And now if we open this up, we see that, okay, it's no longer connected to the HP property. Let's check that for the roper. Good. And if we scroll down and we jump over to the GM layer and look at those spiders, same thing. So now everything has been unlinked properly. And because we updated the default token, if we come in here and we grab a new monster, like if I grab another Wraith, for example, and pull that onto the battlefield, we see that its HP property is not linked to bar 1. If I grab another piercer, same thing. Its HP property has not been updated either, so we've been able to update not only all the tokens on the battlefield, but the default tokens in the game, so that if we were to add additional ones later on, they would not have that same issue. Now, one quick safety tip, I have noticed sometimes when running this that certain tokens get skipped. If that happens, all you need to do is actually open the character sheet and then close it. I think that maybe under the hood there's something that hasn't fully initialized, but that's been sporadic in my testing. The other thing that you may notice is that we specified this whole string here of character sheet type equals NPC in order to filter the tokens. And if you read the ScriptCards documentation, you may find that there is just an NPC filter, kind of like you could just do this. The challenge with that is what the regular NPC filter does. Like if you just do this, what it's actually doing is actually opening up the character sheet, and it's looking to see if this can be edited and controlled by field is empty or not. And here's the trick. Right now, to us, it looks like this field is empty. But sometimes under the hood, there's actually a phantom ID that lives there for a given token. It doesn't happen often, but it can happen. And in that case, it winds up tricking the script into thinking that this is not an actual NPC. This is a player's token. So we don't want that. So what we're going to do here is use that full filter that I showed you earlier, because that's going to guarantee that we're grabbing the actual NPC sheets. So there you have it. That's how you can address the situation where all the tokens are linked into the same character sheet. And this can be fixed now with just the click of a button. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing. And until next time, folks, happy gaming.